Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast. Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Radhika Iyengar. Radhika Iyengar is a TEDx and keynote speaker, author, Silicon Valley Woman of Influence, and a serial entrepreneur. She is founding partner at StarChain Ventures, a Silicon Valley-based venture studio focused on the convergence of advanced technologies, including blockchain, AI, and IoT. She is also managing partner of Double Nova Group, a global advanced tech advisory company based in Silicon Valley. Well, good afternoon, Radhika. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. Great to be here with you.
Awesome. Radhika, I appreciate you jumping on here with me. I have a lot of questions for you, and I just love what you're doing in your space. You've got quite a career working in the Silicon Valley as a technologist, advisor, and now a founder in a venture studio focused on the convergence of advanced tech, including blockchain, AI, and IoT. Can you share with our audience the secret to your career growth and what inspires you?
That's always a great question. I guess, my story is really as an immigrant. I was born in India and I grew up in North Africa in Morocco and came here to the US many, many years ago to pursue my university studies. I think for me, the secret, if you will, to career growth has always been just trying to be as focused as possible with my goals, trying to be flexible with my goals and move with where that path took me. And it certainly was a roundabout sort of way in terms of how I ended up doing what I'm doing. And it's a crystallization of many things that came before me. So I think one of the secrets I guess I would share is being open, being flexible, being adaptive, and just keep going, be open and keep searching, right? And that's, I think, one of the things that inspires me is precisely that, is really, why I'm excited about the convergence of advanced technologies. I think we're sitting on an amazing set of tools. Technologies are great tools. They enable us to do great things. And so what inspires me is really the full potential of what we can do with this technology and doing good with this technology for not just our own immediate backyards and our little worlds around us, but at the global scale at large. And so that's really what drives me forward. It's always been the global conversation in that respect. And I keep embracing what life puts in my path.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's important that you shared your unique story coming to the US and using, your life skills to make this a better world. Thanks again, Radhika. As you know, Radhika, everybody globally has had to make major shifts to adapt to the new normal here in this pandemic. Could you share with us what you're doing to help your organization stay relevant in this economy?
Again, very on point to what we're facing today. And I guess the new normal is really bringing about some amazing opportunities. I think from a technology perspective, we're looking at how, for example, in healthcare, which I work extensively in, and this is part of my role as global ambassador and advisory board member for blockchain and healthcare of today, is to really look at how we can leverage the power of technology and make it much more impactful to what we're doing today and what we need today. And if you look at what has happened in this particular unique time frame that we're in with this pandemic, we really have had to put away a lot of the challenges and fears that come with those challenges. Sometimes some people are just afraid of what that change really means, and instead look at the opportunity, because the flip side of challenge is opportunity. And so for healthcare, I'm looking at a dramatic shift in mindset, much more openness, and looking at technology as a way to get us through some of these big challenges we have in healthcare. And what does it mean to offer healthcare that's accessible to everyone? How do we come together as a global community to help one another get past these challenges? And these challenges are for us as a human population on this planet. Part of the role that I have with BH2Y, for example, is looking at the power of advanced technologies in healthcare and the power of bringing global communities together. So my role as global ambassador for this organization is really tied into what we are doing and how we are shifting gears to embrace technology to get us through this period and then beyond, right? Because I don't know what a new normal really means yet. I don't think any of us really do. We're in this here and now. We have to embrace embrace what comes before us. But what we're seeing in healthcare is amazing transformations. Telehealth, for example, which has always been somewhat to the fringe, kind of a nice to have rather than a must have. And now, boom, we're in this pandemic, and now telehealth is right here, right now. It's a must have because this is how we're bringing healthcare to everyone's doorstep. And so I think all of these flexibility of mindset of embracing technologies that help us not only navigate through these difficult times, but then beyond, coming out of that, whatever that new normal is going to look like. That's really a part and parcel of what we're working on at BHTY, and really highlighting the power of technology in helping us shift to this whatever new normal we're going to end up with.
Absolutely. The last 6, 7 months have been just kind of a rush to innovation, and people are being very open-minded to trying things that they hadn't thought of yet, or maybe it was something on the shelf, and now everything's out on the table. So thanks for sharing that.
Well, and I'll just add to that
Sure.
because I think, with the telehealth, BHDY, for example, is also putting out a conference that is entirely focused on telehealth as a major topic, but it's attached to other technologies. So it's not just telehealth in a vacuum, it's embracing other things as well. And so this particular time is very, very exciting for us. I can provide more information to your audience if they want to know more about that particular conference, because I think it's going to be bringing some exciting minds together to talk about that new normal, talking about the shifts that are happening within healthcare and how we're able to reach across the miles to expanded audiences and expanded, I would say, consumers of healthcare, people that are needing healthcare no matter where you are.
Absolutely. So, Radhika, are you looking or leveraging any new emerging technologies within your space? And I know you are, obviously, with AI, blockchain, IoT, but maybe you can talk about something here just to give us kind of an idea.
Sure. So some of these shifts that I was talking about, it's all really centered around the data story. So my involvement with healthcare, for example, but larger than that, just technologies in general, is really about the entire data story. And so when we look at data, a lot of people are focused on what we have as existing data, and then what do we do with that, right? And that's always a great place to start. But if you think about data, it's a bigger story than that, because you really have to think about, well, how are we getting that data? Now, more than ever before, for example, in healthcare, we're seeing the role of remote patient monitoring. We're using sensors and wearables and all manner of devices, IoT devices, to be able to harness that data. Some of that data is going to be generated in clinical settings, and some of that data is going to be generated by us at home. And so that's really the part on the acquisition of that data, right? And how we are going to acquire quality data. The second piece of it is really all of the data administration, data storage, data management, data access, all of that. What do we do? How do we structure it? And then what do we do in terms of a data set, a large data set preferably, and an inclusive data set preferably, is if we're going to address the needs of global populations, is how we unearth meaningful insights into that data. So that's leveraging AI, for example, underlying it all in terms of being able to provide the greatest amount of security, privacy, confidentiality, obviously, that goes with that privacy, as well as control and ownership of data. Who owns that data? That is entirely that part of that data story. And this is where blockchain comes in, because we're talking about the ability in the near future, hopefully, that all of us as individuals are going to be able to own our own data, are going to be able to selectively share that data with other people. So it's ownership and control of our own data, because as we know in healthcare, it's all very fragmented at the moment. And if you're really trying to bring a continuity and a holistic piece, view into your own data, you really have to change the whole conversation and the narrative we have around data. So a lot of what I'm doing in this space is around that whole data story and how we're looking at solving some of the fundamental issues we have around data.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's simply amazing. And you're right. Data is where it's at now. It's the new gold. And I think a lot of the answers we'll be able to find through those data sets. So thanks for sharing. Last question, Radhika. My audience, the global audience, wants to know more about you. Could you share something from your career experience that would be helpful for those looking to grow their career in either technology or entrepreneurship?
I think for me, my story has always been it's never been about a linear path. And so if you think about the beauty of something like entrepreneurship, those who have this entrepreneurial mindset, we're the type of people who don't necessarily think linearly. We're thinking very much outside of that linear path. And so for me, the advice that I would give to other people out there, especially women of color, I do a lot of my work thinking about how do I inspire the next generation of women of color to look up and say, yes, we can do all of this, is to think about non-traditional methods of doing things, because sometimes those traditional paths place a lot of obstacles in our path. And so there are many naysayers that come out and say, you can't do this, and you're dismissed, marginalized, whatever. All of these experiences only serve to make us much more creative and much more innovative in terms of how we approach our own careers. I couldn't have told you all those many years ago, coming to the United States to start my university education, this is where I would end up. And so if you look back, that hindsight 2020 is always a wonderful view, saying, wow, I never would have expected I've ended up where I am today. But I think a lot of that journey comes from really marching forward with a vision of wanting to do great things and having great impact globally. And so those people who are trying to grow their careers, remember that the path can be nonlinear, and can to embrace that nonlinear path, to find different ways and use creativity and resourcefulness and resilience to build a career that is people might look at and go, wow, how did you get there? So I think it's embracing that nonlinear thinking and growing your career, and especially entrepreneurship, because I think in today's day, it's really a global view of entrepreneurship. There are so many challenges globally that people can solve. And I think that people from diverse backgrounds, we have other ways of thinking and doing things, right? And I think that diversity, which we're hoping to, increase and make inclusive more than ever before, really there's no time like the present to add our own value and contribute something from our own unique vantage points and perspectives. And so my advice is to keep searching and be open to those experiences. And you may fail, but you get up and you learn from that experience, and you become much more resilient and figure out new ways of doing things, but always moving forward creatively and innovatively, even with your own careers.
Thank you for sharing, Radhika. I appreciate your life experience and your contribution, not only to this podcast, but the contribution you're making to society. So thanks again. It was a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Thank you, Brian. It was such a pleasure being with you today as well.
Bye for now.